Alright, so the action's starting on my right flank.
Building has fallen to the enemy.
Now, after having lost my cavalry earlier, it was time for me to regroup and make an attempt on my opponent's left flank, my right flank. So I decided to push, and push hard. So I move up my light foot to get my opponent to come forward, and then I quickly dropped back, and this will draw in my opponent's foot guards here, and hopefully I'll get some good kills on them from my light infantry. So here's my light infantry. They're going to open fire. There they got about 11 of his foot guards dead. So that's exactly what I wanted. I want his elite infantry to get pounded. And I have my infantry back up, and then here in a moment, my opponent doesn't think I'm moving my center, but he's actually leaving his flank wide open here, and I'm going to move my center troops to reinforce, because my opponent's troops are way too far back up on this hill to come and support. So he kind of got his army split up, and I'm going to take advantage of that situation. So you can see my opponent has cavalry in this vicinity as well, so I do have to be careful of them. So now the fight has started proper. My infantry is exchanging fire with his infantry. And it is going to be a bloody fight. At the moment I'm outnumbered. My opponent's got Silesian shoots and he's trying to get out on my flanks. But now my flanking force is being pushed into position. And my opponent knows that, and he's going to try and use his cavalry to rectify the situation. But he's not quite sure what to do with them yet, so he's just backing them up. But so far the fight is not going good for my opponent. My light infantry, combined with my heavy infantry, is dealing him a lot of blows. And that was just some regrouped cavalry of mine, and I knew they weren't going to do much good, so I just charged them straight into my opponent's troops. And all this does is tie them up and keep them from firing. And this gives my men a momentary advantage, and takes all of his men out of formation. I had another regrouped cavalry unit with which I do the same thing. And they rout, of course, too, but again, it keeps my opponent from firing for just a minute. And this allows me to move my troops into better position. Now, at the same time, my opponent hoped to catch me off guard with my flanking infantry, but he did not. My Highland foot managed to make it into square. Now, they are on a little bit of odd terrain, so his cavalry still does cause some damage on the charge. But you can see Highland foot are pretty good in a melee fight. And there they finally destroy those annoying lancers. So now I just got to take my my flanking forces out of square and go ahead and push them forward. Now I did lose some forces in this fight, but my opponent is the one that's taking the bigger beating. So a minute ago you saw my disruption tactics, and those tactics were critical. And my opponent's musketeer unit here fails and routs, so he does have this unit of musketeers here, but I've pushed back his troops pretty badly, and I routed one of his units of foot guards. So my opponent suffered major losses there, and him seeing my flanking troops moving up, he's going to retreat, but the last thing that I'm going to do is allow him to make a full retreat and get ready and regroup, so I'm going to give chase to him. And he's got his general over there for morale purposes. Now what have I been doing on my other flank? Remember how I said I had these guys in the building, or at least some of them near the building? So that is helping to hold the enemy in place and cause my opponent an unnecessary amount of losses. So my opponent is attempting to right this situation, and I am not going to win the fight over here, but I am going to cause my opponent a pretty good number of losses. He's got a unit of foot guards there and one here as well, and those foot guard units are tough, very tough. But I have both of his foot guard units here down to into the 30s, one at 32, one at 39. This is a pretty cool view of the fight. Looking up the hill, there's all the smoke, you can see the building. I'll let you take it from this view for a moment. So my light infantry runs away, my opponent decides to charge his foot guards down the hill. Probably not a bad idea, but they're pretty beat up. But I think he figures that they could do better in melee than firing, but they routed upon contact. Perhaps he was just trying to disrupt my men. Here comes another unit of foot guards, and they're going to make it to my line intact, which is going to be a dangerous situation for me, even though I outnumber them. But I managed to rout them too. So there, those two units of foot guards are gone. Unfortunately, he has one more nearly full unit of foot guards here, and in musketeers that are going to make short work of my remaining men. But remember, my men in this house, they're going to play a critical role. So I took my cavalry from the other side, and I charged it up behind my opponent's troops, hoping to get his general, but he does manage to get his general away, and then all my horses managed to just get killed by his squares. But they did force squares, and that was very bad, because you can see my opponent's men are getting absolutely cut to pieces by my musket fire while they're in square. And this unit right here routs. So my opponent has now essentially lost the battle on his left flank. And his general unit went running for my light infantry, but again I made use of this building here for cover, and my light infantry are going to make it inside and cause losses to the enemy general. The cavalry cannot follow them into the building. So my opponent has lost his left flank at this point. All he has left is this one unit of musketeers, which I'm going to melee rush and destroy. But I sent one unit from the center that I didn't need to go help my units on I guess my left flank. So like I said, this was a very long battle. It's fought out through multiple stages. My opponent fought it very well. I was very impressed. It was a pretty close fight. You know, another thing about Napoleon Total War that I noticed that really annoys me is half of the games when you try and join them, it won't let you. It says no response from host. You get dropped from Steam constantly. The battles are pretty lopsided. France and Britain are just extremely, extremely better factions than the rest. Now, that does not to say that you can't win with other factions, but if you go to a head-to-head bout, two people using the same tactics, France and Britain are going to win every time. So it's kind of annoying in that respect. And then further, I was beaten pretty much every time I played today. A couple of times I was beaten by people who used some sound tactics. One was a team battle where some guys used some excellent rush tactics and just straight up whipped me and my teammate. But some of the battles, people like to use a lot of really cheap tactics too on Napoleon, and that also ticks me off because they do it constantly. So my opponent's last unit of foot guards here goes into square, and I was going to just melee him, and I was sending my general up. Let's see, where's my general? Yeah, I'm sending my general up here in a minute to try and reinforce my men. I'll have to show you what happens to him. But here his foot guards are lasting annoyingly long and taking almost no losses. The square makes it to where they don't get outflanked, and just pound for pound, they're a whole lot better fighting troops than my men. And my men are tired as well from charging up the hill, and his men are fresh. So even though his men are badly outnumbered, this is a fight that they very well could win. So I go ahead and pull my men back, but right at the same time his men come out of the square, and so then I'm going to end up going right back into combat with him. Seems like my general, I guess I haven't moved him yet. Yeah, so there's some of my men routed because they're tired. It's pretty annoying. So I'm not really, I keep trying to melee his foot guards. They keep moving around, and they're not really taking a whole lot of losses during all this, which was kind of annoying. So once again, I just decide to charge into him. I'm kind of waffling back and forth on what to do. But I can see that my men's morale was wavering, so I have to be careful. Yeah, look at my men's morale. It's just getting worse and worse. They routed with 45 men because they're very tired. There goes another unit, shattered, very tired. And then this unit of foot is shaken and tired. So his foot guards end up holding their ground. But that's okay, I have lots of leftover troops that are on the way from the other side of the battle. And here comes my general. And I was going to run him to the top of the hill to inspire my men, and I totally forgot about the stakes that my opponent laid down at the beginning of the battle. So, goodbye, Major General Picton. It was nice knowing you. You did nothing in this battle, except for die like a coward. Alright. Seems like every time Major General Picton's in a battle, whether he's on my team or not, he dies some type of horrific death. So it must be his fate. Alright, all my opponent has left are these two units. One of them is foot guards, and the other is a regular musketeer unit. And one thing I learned is that I'm not going to go in a melee fight with him, so I'm trying to get my men lined up so that I can open fire on his troops. And my opponent wants to run away and regroup to try and give his men the best possible chance, which is okay. I'm glad my opponent's playing as best he can, but there's really no sense in him running away at this point. You know, it's possible he could win, but it's extremely unlikely. So basically, I'm just going to chase his troops down and open fire. And here I did get the musketeer unit, killed a number of them, and they rout. And the foot guard unit is now shaken because every other unit on the battlefield has routed except for them. And how would you feel if you were the only unit left on the battlefield? So here he's going to have them stand their ground, and my men are going to finally wheel up and open fire. So let's watch that. So here is Prussia's final stand. I think what that guy was just saying there was, ouch, I was shot in the groin. Why me? Why me? Alright, so good game to my opponent. There you can see his name. It was a tough fought battle. You can see that he caused me a lot of losses, and some of my losses were caused by my own men, so that was great. In any case, good game. Hope you enjoyed this battle. I know it was a long one, but I wanted to show you the whole thing. Some of you have been begging me, oh, please put up some multiplayer battles. Well, I try to put up multiplayer battles on both Rome and Napoleon Total War, but I don't get on here very often, and when I do, I'm faced with people, like I said, who use annoying tactics or cheap tactics, or I just have a battle where it wasn't very good, and so it's kind of hard for me to get online battles because it's very time-consuming. It took me 4 hours before I got this footage, so you better enjoy it. See you later.